The school auditorium buzzed with laughter and chatter. Brightly colored balloons floated against the ceiling, and parents clapped proudly as children performed on stage. Yet in the corner of the hall stood a little girl in a pale blue dress, clutching her teddy bear. Lily Carter, only 5 years old, was the daughter of Ethan Carter, a 25-year-old CEO whose empire stretched across the city. But despite his fame and fortune, Ethan's daughter had not spoken a single word in 2 years. Whispers filled the crowd. "She won't talk again," one parent muttered. "Poor child, even money can't solve everything," another sighed. Ethan sat in the front row, his expression unreadable, but inside his chest, frustration battled with heartbreak. He had tried everything, therapists, doctors, tutors, but nothing worked. Then came Miss Emma Hayes, a new teacher, barely 20, with hopeful eyes and a heart full of determination. She had been assigned to prepare Lily for the event. Other staff warned her, "Don't expect miracles." But as Emma knelt beside Lily, she smiled softly. "You don't have to speak yet. Just know I believe in you." For the first time, Lily didn't turn away. The backstage area was chaotic. Children ran around in costumes. Teachers called names and music echoed. Amid the noise, Emma crouched next to Lily, who sat quietly, eyes downcast. The little girl traced circles on her teddy's ear. Emma's voice was calm. "You don't have to talk right now, Lily. You can just listen. And when you're ready, I promise I'll hear your voice." Lily blinked, almost as if the words reached somewhere deep inside. She didn't answer, but her tiny hand gripped Emma's sleeve for just a moment. Watching from a distance, Ethan frowned. He had seen countless teachers fail, yet this young woman didn't scold or bribe. She simply waited with patience. Later, when the crowd dispersed, Ethan approached Emma. His tall frame and sharp suit gave him an intimidating presence. "My daughter hasn't spoken in years," he said coldly. "Don't waste your energy." Emma lifted her chin, meeting his gaze with quiet strength. "She doesn't need pressure, Mr. Carter. She needs someone who believes in her." For a man who controlled boardrooms with ease, Ethan found himself momentarily speechless. Something about her words unsettled him, because he knew she was right. Ethan Carter prided himself on being logical. Numbers, contracts, profits, everything could be measured, predicted and controlled. But when it came to his daughter, logic failed. That evening, in his sleek office overlooking the city skyline, he summoned Emma. She sat across from him, her plain dress and nervous, hands a sharp contrast to the polished glass table between them. "You're wasting your time," Ethan said firmly. "Lily has seen the best doctors. No progress. Don't think you can fix what others couldn't." Emma's voice trembled slightly, but her words were steady. "I'm not trying to fix her. I'm trying to understand her." Ethan raised an eyebrow. No one had ever spoken to him like that, especially not a young, inexperienced teacher. "And you think you'll succeed where professionals failed?" Emma's lips curved into a faint smile. "I don't know if I'll succeed, but I do know this. Lily needs love more than solutions. If no one tries, she'll never find her voice." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Ethan stared at her, torn between disbelief and hope. Against his will, he wondered if this teacher might truly be different. The next afternoon, Emma found Lily sitting alone in the classroom, her tiny hands busy with crayons. Sheets of paper lay scattered around, filled with shapes and colors. Instead of asking questions, Emma quietly sat beside her and picked up a crayon. She drew a crooked cat with big round eyes and made a silly face. Lily blinked at the drawing, and then, for the first time, a soundless giggle escaped her lips. Her shoulders shook as she covered her mouth, eyes shining with amusement. Emma laughed with her. "It's terrible, isn't it? You draw better than me." At the door, Ethan stood unnoticed, having arrived earlier than expected. He froze when he saw his daughter giggling. It had been so long since he'd seen her truly happy. Something inside him softened, though he quickly masked it with his usual stern expression. When Emma glanced up and saw him, she expected criticism. Instead, Ethan simply said, "She laughed?" His voice cracked slightly, betraying emotion. Emma nodded gently. "That's the first step." For the first time, Ethan allowed himself to consider a possibility he hadn't dared believe in. Maybe this young teacher could reach his daughter after all. Over the next few days, Lily began to change in small but meaningful ways. She no longer avoided eye contact with Emma. She nodded in response to simple questions and sometimes even tugged Emma's sleeve to show her drawings. Though she still didn't speak, a quiet bond was forming. The annual school play was approaching, and Emma suggested Lily take part. She presented the idea to Ethan during pickup time. "It doesn't have to involve speaking," Emma explained softly. "Even holding a flower on stage would give her confidence." Ethan's brows furrowed. "She's not ready. I won't let her be embarrassed in front of everyone." Emma's tone was steady but kind. "It won't embarrass her, it will empower her. Trust me, Mr. Carter." Ethan hesitated. He wasn't used to trusting anyone, especially with something as fragile as his daughter. But when he looked at Emma, he saw determination, not pity. Against his better judgment, he agreed. That evening, Ethan watched Lily in her room, twirling the paper flower Emma had given her for practice. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of hope. Perhaps his daughter's silence was not forever. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when Ethan decided to pick Lily up early. He found her in the school garden, sitting under a large oak tree with Emma beside her. Emma was reading aloud from a fairy tale book, her voice soft and melodic. Lily sat with wide eyes, tracing the pictures with her small finger. But what stunned Ethan most was that Lily's lips moved. Not a sound came out, but she was silently repeating the words after Emma. Ethan's breath caught. He stood frozen, afraid that moving would break the fragile magic of the moment. Emma noticed him, but instead of stopping, she smiled and kept reading. When Lily noticed her father watching, she didn't shrink away. She simply rested her head against Emma's arm, a sign of trust stronger than words. Ethan's chest tightened. For years he had built walls around himself, convincing the world that nothing touched him. But watching his daughter with this young teacher made those walls crack. That evening, Ethan admitted to himself something he hadn't in years. He wasn't in control of everything. And maybe for the first time he didn't need to be. The rehearsal day arrived, and the school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Children in costumes ran across the stage, practicing lines and songs. Emma guided Lily gently toward the spotlight, her small hands clutching a paper flower. At first, Lily froze at the edge of the stage. The rows of empty seats loomed before her like a sea of shadows. Her grip on the flower tightened, and her breathing grew uneven. Emma knelt beside her, whispering softly, "It's just us. Lily, pretend we're playing in class. You're safe." Lily looked into Emma's kind eyes, then slowly stepped forward. She walked to her spot and held up the flower with trembling hands. It wasn't perfect, but it was brave. From the back of the hall, Ethan watched in disbelief. His daughter, who had hidden from the world for years, was standing in front of a stage. Pride swelled in his chest, overwhelming and raw. When Lily glanced at him shyly, he gave the smallest nod, his eyes glistening. She didn't speak, but for the first time she didn't run. And for Ethan, that was a miracle. The night before the school event, Ethan found himself pacing in his office. Papers lay untouched on his desk, deals waiting for his signature. But his thoughts were only of Lily and of Emma. Later, he called Emma to the mansion for a final rehearsal. She arrived, modestly dressed, carrying storybooks and props. In the grand living room, she knelt on the carpet with Lily, practicing the simple stage role again and again. Lily's eyes lit up every time Emma praised her. After Lily went to bed, Ethan poured 2 glasses of water and sat across from Emma. His usual confidence was gone. "I've built companies, conquered markets, made billions, but I can't reach my own daughter. And yet, you've done in weeks what I couldn't in years." Emma looked at him with gentle conviction. "It's not about power, Mr. Carter. It's about patience. Lily doesn't need a perfect father. She just needs you." Her words pierced him deeper than any boardroom challenge. For the first time, Ethan felt the weight of his loneliness and the strange comfort of Emma's quiet strength. The day of the school event arrived. The hall was filled with proud parents, teachers, and guests. Excitement buzzed in the air. Ethan sat in the front row, his hands clenched tightly. He told himself not to expect miracles. When it was Lily's turn, Emma guided her gently onto the stage. Lily clutched her flower, her small body trembling. For a long, breathless moment, the audience waited. Then Lily lifted the flower and whispered into the microphone, "Daddy." The hall went silent. Ethan froze, his heart hammering in his chest. Tears blurred his vision as the sound of her tiny voice reached him for the first time in 2 years. Parents gasped, teachers exchanged stunned looks, and Emma's eyes filled with tears of pride. Ethan stood halfway, overcome with emotion. Lily looked straight at him, a shy smile trembling on her lips. It wasn't a long speech, but it was everything. In that single word, she gave him back the hope he thought he'd lost forever. After the performance, Ethan rushed backstage, sweeping Lily into his arms. She clung to him tightly, her little voice whispering once more, "Daddy." The sound shattered what remained of the walls around his heart. Emma stood nearby, smiling softly. Ethan turned to her, his usually sharp voice breaking with gratitude. "Thank you for giving me back my daughter." Emma shook her head gently. "You don't owe me thanks." Lily found her voice because she felt safe, loved, and believed in. That's all she ever needed. Ethan looked at Emma, really looked at her, not as just a teacher, but as someone who had changed both his and Lily's lives. For the first time, the ruthless young CEO felt vulnerable and hopeful. That evening, as the three of them walked out of the school together, Ethan held Lily's hand in one and quietly offered the other to Emma. She hesitated, then took it. The journey ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear, this was not an ending. It was a beginning for a father, a daughter, and the teacher who believed in miracles.